Ooh, okay, we are live, I think. Voted for Gideon as the new president. Oh my goodness. President Gideon. I mean, wouldn't be the worst choice, I guess. Oh, well, we're starting out with a confirmation. It is in fact a Loki stream. This is what I get for looking at the chat, right, Wes? Howdy, Xavier. Good to see you. Hey, I am. Thanks for starting things off with a bam. All right. I want to make sure we got all the shots we could want with this guy first, so. Oh, right. All right. There we go. Should be fine. Oh. Oh. I guess we'll just take a shot of that. Anyway, so oh. There we go. There we are. Loki stream confirmed because I speak fluent nonsense. That tells you what you got to do. You got to speak more nonsense for me in order to make sure that it is I, the tongue of my people. Nonsense. Oh, I feel like we got most of the shots with with him doing things here. So I feel like most of this is like unnecessary. Ow. Something like this, right? Anyway, so to just kind of, nah, I think I liked it when it was just standard. Anyway, oh, we're getting a lot of good ones. So sorry guys, I'm a little distracted, but of course, you're right there. There we go, something like this. There we go. Take a above look at the arcs to show that they're lopsided barbs. Cool. Let's do. Oh. Oh yeah, you're right. That's really not obvious. At the angle we chit. There we go. Uh-huh. There we go. Damn. There we are. Oh my god. Ah, damn. There we are. There we go. There we are. That's the problem with these boss fights. Like, you know, you want to get all the angles and stuff, and it can get pretty it can get pretty distracting. Hey, Luigi, how you doing? Anyway, so as I was trying to get us started talking about earlier, I saw a comment this morning that was it was very well thought out and interesting. So hey, fan, if you're watching right now, I thought that it was a great comment that you were making with some really interesting questions, and it kind of highlighted a point to me that I want to do, which is like I really need to update my Eclipse article on DS3 to expand a little bit more on a few more details on the Eclipse and stuff, and maybe even just general timeline things, because I think it's worth kind of diving a little bit deeper into. I also think overall it might be good for me just to review like the reading order of Eclipse and if it's the right spot for where I have it, if I can move it earlier or later, or, you know, all that. Because I feel like it could be one of those general things that I mentioned a lot earlier, but I guess it's going to depend, because I talk about a lot of different stuff, and it might be something where it's like, no, you know, you're talking about Sullivan and stuff, you need to, you know, save that for later or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely not easy to see those, but those things are barbs for sure. Woo. All right, I think I've basically seen everything I can in phase 1. Oh. Like that. We've seen this before, but I want to get another clear shot of it. Yeah, that'll do. Anyway, so, like, again, I appreciate you guys when you make comments and stuff, and just generally the feedback and things. Keep in mind that it does, that, you know, even if I have already, like, thought or considered these things in advance, it's always great that people are, like, coming in and asking or whatever, because, like, you know, maybe it's something I haven't thought of, and I need to actually kind of sit down and either think about it, or maybe it's something where I'm like, oh, and you know what? I didn't explain that, you know, as well as I could have in the article or something like that, or maybe I should, you know, be more direct or address it more directly, you know, so... There's a lot that goes into this, and I really do appreciate. Ooh. There we go. I really do appreciate you guys for that. Also, please note for the future that there will be a new print of Abyssal Archive coming out soon, and that print should have all of the corrections and things that I and you guys have brought to my attention. So I've compiled a list, made sure the publisher has it, so they should be making all those changes before the print that's coming up. So I think it's going to be really, really good for people. And as always, like, you know, you guys can get your digital copies if you have an update to the latest version, so that way. This is why generally I always recommend people. Again, it's always nice to have like a physical copy on your shelf, but you know, digital's just so convenient that way, where it's like, oh, okay, you know what, we're making like, you know, a typo correction here, a little fix there. It will include actually this one will in fact include like a slight change of like a slightly bigger change in substance compared to others, mostly because it'll be making basically an adjustment on the conversation regarding Smo. I'm going to be removing a piece of the analysis that personally I've never been, you know, big on. I included it for the sake of, you know, just saying like, yes, I acknowledge this is in fact something that is you can talk about, but it's not something I think is worth its attention. It's not like I try to do that for every single, you know, point where it's like, oh, but you could read something this way, or if you twist it around this or whatever, right? So I think it's better just instead of use that space in the book to talk about something that I think is a lot more relevant and more important to highlight with Smo, which the original thing in AA did not. So I'm looking forward again to that little update. But again, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not like the biggest deal or anything like that. So it's not like anything like, you know, that substantial in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's not like I'm rewriting a whole chapter or something, right? But I just felt that, oh, I completely forgot to switch back. I just thought that it's definitely something that's worth mentioning. Especially if you're someone who's like on the fence being like, do I get my Abyssal Archive hard copy now? I was like, I would wait till the second print is being made. Because I don't know if Abyssal Archive is still available now or not for your area, but if it is, it might be a good idea to wait until the second prints are out so you have a chance of getting that one. Yeah, it's always nice when you know that your books are selling enough that they're getting new prints, and this is not the first time with AA, so woo. I really appreciate this. There we go. Ooh. Oh. Okay, I did not know. I did not know these guys. I did not know these guys could get summoned separately before the big phase change. Or are we in the phase change? Now I'm feeling skeptical. There we go. Get those feetsies off the screen. I'm also curious on the material. The horn-sent daggers, candles, and holy weapons almost look like runes to me. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's like actually made of runes. Right? Like we're not seeing like that the same, what do I want to say, the same like glowiness to them. But it doesn't look like real gold either, so. All right. You're in the phase change, just don't have the music. I guess that's true. There we go. Oh. Okay, so she does in fact use it only in her phase 2. Just there were so few she was summoning, I was kind of skeptical. Not what I wanted, but okay. God, I wish they fixed that. Yeah. Yeah, something like this. There we go. Ooh. There we go. While thinking hard on Ronnie's motive for sacrificing Godwin, I've reached the simple conclusion that he was simply the only option. She could sacrifice her own brother. She couldn't sacrifice her own brothers, and Omen twins were in public. I mean, you could argue she could have gone for a Melania or a Mikola then, right? Again, I think the point was that like Godwin had basically become the face of the Golden Order. He was someone who basically had his foot in every single era, obviously living through the time of Radigan. Still a strong, you know, has very positive feelings about the old Crucible stuff from his clothing. And obviously was someone who was there during the transition and post Crucible and stuff with the dragons and everything, and arguably helped, like, besides the fact that it's obviously exclusive to Faith, like fundamentalism is very compatible with everything that Godwin is about. So when looked at as a whole, I think that Godwin is just the obvious candidate, right? He's a hero. You don't really get any heroes besides Godwin at this point, right? Like, they're all dead or gone. God, the fact that you can't... Anyway, so I feel like just in general, there's no, like... really deep reason why, oh, it had to be Godwin. I think it was just the best candidate in terms of Ronnie wanting to make a statement. And obviously making that statement on the person who will get the curse brand was just like, you know, it kind of just went in hand. Like if you're gonna try to separate your body and soul's death for the sake of getting free of the two fingers, may as well do it while you're making a statement about how you're rejecting the Elden Ring, the two fingers, and everything all that stuff stands for, right? Damn. All right, I think this will be the last one. I think we've exhausted. I'm not seeing anything new that I'm like, oh yeah, I really want a shot of that. So you can backstab her when she does. Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. But yeah, I just don't. Believe me, I've thought so hard with the whole America angle and stuff like this on the Night of the Black Knives, and if there's really like some deeper secret conspiratorial thing to the conspiracy, and it's like, not really. It's quite simply just a matter of everybody had some reason to hate America and the orders that she established, and this was the best way in order to kind of make that known and destabilize things a little bit. Now, could they have predicted how America would react that would lead to the break? Oh no, of course not. But I'm not surprised that Ronnie played things the way she did. I'd like to think that until Godwin was alive, the Age of Plenty hadn't ended yet, and Radigan was still with Renala. Everything in my analysis suggests that well, one, Radigan and Renala weren't together until after the Age of Plenty ended. So, like, yeah, that would already definitely be a bit of a problem. So, like, Radigan and Renala just weren't a thing together until post Plenty. Like, that's the entire motivation for the Liurnian Wars. And then Godwin himself, I mean, he was born probably pretty close to the end. I don't know if he was born. He's probably not born post God Hunts. He was probably born pre God Hunts, but he was probably like very young at that point. Like he was probably like very much like a child. So he was probably there like during, like if I had to guess, I think that he was probably like a very young lad, you know, type of thing. You know, not really like grown enough where like, you know, some of the decadence really set in. And so he ended up kind of growing up during the time when it's like, okay, no, our focus now is strife, but he's too young to take part in stuff like the Crusade, for example, right? I don't think Marika would let him because obviously no other demigods take part in that. But just kind of make that point is that I don't think that's something that like would be like, oh yeah, Godwin, you're in a position where you might be considering, you know, going on crusade or whatever for Omni. And then yeah, probably then we would also have like, by the time like the Omen twins are born, I imagine that Godwin at the very least would have to be a teenager, if not like a young adult by this point. So I think when we take that into consideration, no, I don't want to kill this guy. I don't want to kill this guy on this character. I hadn't thought of it this way. I thought for sure he was the eldest son. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, at this point I am absolutely convinced that Godwin is 100% not the eldest child. I've said this before in my stuff on Godric that I believe that Godefroy is more likely to be the eldest child. Like very much more likely to be Marika and Godfrey's firstborn, I believe. But after doing the stuff that I've recently done with the timelines in terms of God Hunts and all that, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I'm pretty convinced that Godwin has to come in late. And it's the funny experience is because he ain't a fatty. Yeah, they didn't change the design for these guys at all. You gotta love all these like these horribly burned, horribly mutilated and bony corpse, and then just like normal ass paled ass dude just sitting on top of the pile. Oh, the contrast is something. Man, hate to get reprimanded in America's kingdom. I get the reason. If he's the firstborn, then yeah, he would have to be an adult like by then, right? Like at the very least, right? But yeah, no. I'm pretty much like firmly now in the camp that like yeah, Godwin is not the firstborn, and he's not that that like really matters in terms of succession stuff due to the way that obviously the Elden Ring, Elden Lordship and stuff works in America's King in well in you know in the Lands Between in general, but just generally speaking, I think that if we were to try to put primacy on a character, Godofall would be the better candidate. If Godwin was the eldest, he would be a shame on his family. Okay, so here's where my thoughts are when it comes to something like that. I think the whole idea is that, you know, because of Malekith, after the events of the Gold Might Queen, that demigods are suddenly feeling the need to become heroes because they're afraid of Malekith and want to be able to at least have some defense, because if God forbid something were to happen and they earn their mother's, you know, ire and all that jazz, right? So this is what's kind of pushing them. And you have someone like you know, Godwin growing up in that environment ends up being, you know, the most notable hero essentially that we get besides Godfrey or Ratigan. So yeah, I do feel like if Godwin was born earlier, he definitely would have been much like what we see with the God Huns, a bunch of fatties, you know, drunk, living off the decadence of their plentiful era. So as funny as it is to imagine, like, you know, kind of like the people have done that all the time with Family Guy and all that stuff, like, you know, drawing God, what's his name? It's been so long. I can only remember Homer from Simpsons now. But it's not Lewis, is it? But you know, the main character in Family Guy, and they like draw him in all sorts of like silly, like, you know, iconic characters or something like that. Like I imagine that for like Godwin. It would be so hilarious. Oh no, Peter, it's Peter Griff, right? So like they, you know, they do like a Peter version of every iconic character. So I just imagine that, and it would be so funny. Godwin is the firstborn. He was obviously just born within the Storm Beyond Time. I'm sure at some point the Storm Beyond Time is going to have some crazy timeline shenanigan theories, because it wouldn't be a From Software firstborn theory if there wasn't some stupid timeline shenanigan theories. Now that I think about it, that does make sense. Morgoth does look like an old dude. He's likely older. Well, Morgoth would have to be born after Godwin in this scenario, because again, Morgoth and Mohg are born at the very least, they're thrown into the dungeons for sure at the tail end of the era. And while they do get to grow up a little bit, like they're still like probably just small children / toddlers. Like Morgoth's probably just had like some very basic learning about miracles, incantations, witnessed his father probably, you know, training and stuff with his axe and all this stuff. And then, yeah, like the thing with Omen is that Omen just kind of look old. I don't think this is consistent for Hornsent, but gray hair is a pretty consistent thing we see with Omen. But yeah, the idea would be that Morgoth and Mohg should be the oldest if we ignore Godwin. And their appearance seems to generally be because they are Omen, not necessarily because they are the oldest. Godofall is like an old man, which would also make sense as the firstborn and stuff if he is the true eldest. And then Godwin is still relatively young. There's still a question about how aging works for demigods and things. Because obviously, even when Godfrey leaves the Lands Between, he still is alive and, as far as we can tell, unchanged. So was it just like he was, you know, he's just got like the Gwyn thing where he's going to be like thousands of years old and he's still going to be a gray-haired old man? Like how long has Godfrey been around when he met Marika and when he started graying and all that stuff? A lot of questions. Yeah, Peter Griffin. Yeah, in general, I think that's also something that I neglected to include in my Erdtree's beginning update stuff that I should have probably discussed the immortality thing, because Miyazaki actually talks about it in an interview, and yeah, I was like, yeah, you know, that's something probably I should at least address. Also, reading that interview, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Then honestly, we should never have been discussing or talking about the possibilities of like the Golden Order not existing from the very start and all that stuff, because it makes it very clear that the demigod, like the demigods and all their immortality and all that stuff, comes from the removal of destined death. And I'm just like, oh, okay, then that means that like you have to have it basically happen at the very start of America's Erdtree thing in order for you know, Godfrey and all the demigods like Godwyn and stuff. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know, buddy. I think the most shocking thing for me is they actually have him with lip flaps. You know, I'm so used to these guys just being walking, you know, walking dolls with like audio coming out from their, like, I don't know, like little dots in the back of their bodies or something. Like, this is weird to me. Miyazaki says something like being a demigod stops death by natural causes. I haven't seen something quite like that yet, though. It could be there's an interview that does mention that. I haven't read it yet, but just sort of just talking about like, you know, just the nature of like, you know, demigods, quote unquote, immortality versus a tarnished immortality and stuff like that, which again, all that makes a lot of sense to me and stuff. It's more so that they have, if they don't have like eternal life, they at the very least have incredibly like slowed you know, aging or something like that, right? Clearly it doesn't keep them from dying though. Yeah, okay. I cannot find a good spot where I want to put you or anything like that. And now it's raining, so unfortunate, my friend. I guess we'll have to just take a shot at you later. Yeah, so like overall, like it's one of those things where like, man, I wish I was reading these interviews and like making notes and stuff about them earlier, because even though a lot of them are just like English only, it's like, okay, yeah, I get what we're trying to say here. I feel the same. I feel like the one thing I don't like about those interviews though is whenever Miyazaki talks about the mad taint stuff, because I don't know if it's just the translation from the English side, but it sounds so much bigger than it actually is, like the way it's described and things like that, like the mad taint. When really, at least what we get in the intro and how it's handled in the game, all we get is like, ah, yes, the great runes. They warped the demigods and caused them to go and made them go mad. It's like, well, I don't think they have like some unique crazy power and stuff like that, because they obviously don't do that to us or anything. So we're not being like corrupted in any like metaphysical sense by them. So it seems to be more so just a matter of, oh yes, they receive great power. You'll have even more power when you have stewardship over the Elden Ring. So that, you know, the madness being that they're willing to all kill each other over that. And the warping, of course, being, you know, sort of that the, you know, power corrupts absolutely in the metaphorical sense typically. And like most of the warpings we see come from the characters and stuff. It doesn't come from like the Great Rune's power itself. It's usually something unrelated. Like Godric, it's the grafting, you know, Rykard with the snake. Like it's not like the runes made you do that. And in general, I just don't think the like being like, ah, you see, the runes were what, you know, what caused everything to go wrong. They're the ones that made all the characters have like, you know, malicious thoughts to each other. It's like, are we really kind of just robbing all our these interesting and complex characters of their agency by saying, ah, but then they took a great rune and they kind of went a little cuckoo? You know, it just kind of drove them mad, you know? It has some crazy influence versus, you know, just kind of like being like, well, yeah, because they have a sense of like power in general and greed and, you know, all this stuff, and everyone has their own motivations and things and their histories and their backstories. And there isn't some like corrupting influence of magic or something from a rune. I remember he called destined death the demigod's fated deaths or something. Yeah, that's obviously a translation thing where it's like, okay, they're calling it like fated death or fate's death. It's like, oh no, that's just someone who doesn't know how to translate destined death, because it's not the. If I had to guess at the time of the interview, that wasn't like a known term. Well, they did in fact go quote unquote mad, because you know, that's what the game and stuff actually says. Again, the madness thing I wouldn't harp on too much, because like the character, you know, whenever Miyazaki uses the term madness, yes, there's obviously the, oh, I am crazy, ha ha ha, I do things that make no sense, but you know, typically it's just a matter of the character loses ethical boundaries, and they're willing to do things that, you know, it's the idea that, you know, madness is because you're doing something that most people would consider unethical, and that they think that therefore only you know, someone of unsound mind would do these things, like murder, right? That tends to be what happens when it comes to madness or something like that, right? Yeah, there's nothing really with these camps I want to get either. Yeah, so like, especially when they use terms like mad taint or something, right? But when you know the Japanese, it's like, oh, okay, so they're probably saying something like mad warps or warpings, like what we're seeing in the actual introduction to the game and what have you. And based on all of that, I would hazard a guess that, like, you know, at least for Miyazaki, he really like kind of wants to focus on the idea of the power and stuff like that. But I don't think it's actually supposed to be like anything like, oh yes, like I don't think it's anything like, say, the One Ring in like Lord of the Rings or something like that, right? Where it's like, you know, there's this actual like metaphysical magical force that's actually like, you know, trying to like corrupt them or something, or has like a corrupting influence natural. I think it's just a matter of, you know, you're given a tremendous amount of raw power, and you're like, man, this is pretty goddamn nice, and this power has some really cool stuff going for it, and man, we can get away with a whole lot of stuff if we had more of it. I kind of want to be king. Yeah. I think it's definitely just more so a case of their backgrounds and their individual circumstances and stuff. And in the end, it was really Ronnie and the conspirators that were like, this is something I've said before, that if I come to the conclusion that Mikola is it was part of the conspiracy, if he's the one who actually supplied the assassins with the horses, I'm gonna laugh so hard, because that just basically means that when Morgoth's talking about like traitors all and all that stuff, it's like, yeah, literally everyone here sitting here debating about who's gonna become Elden Lord, and like the only one who was like actually legit in it for the you know, he was in it for the game, as it were, was Radon. Like, he's the only one. I find that so funny, if that's true. Like, literally nobody there actually was interested in the Elden Lord stuff, and worse yet, they're all just part of Ronnie's conspiracy. It was all just basically the biggest farce on top of a farce. But yeah, that's something that is something to be determined on Mikola. I would not be surprised though. I do get like the strong sense that I'm like, oh yeah, I see it now. I see the vision. Just like Mikola did when he decided he was gonna go sacrifice his body or something. I forget which one this one is. Is this the one with the slimes? It's the one with this garden. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the only one that I think has anything kind of weird about it is Radon. He looks a little, you know, he doesn't look like his portrait or painting or anything. Though now that I wonder about it, based on like the specific skin color and stuff, I wonder if the idea is just like burning or something. Because, you know, his, at least correct me if I'm wrong, but his Great Rune seems to be very fire themed, right? Like there's always this idea of burning and burning scarlet rot and all that stuff. And Miyazaki himself points out in the interview like the elements and things. So I wonder if there's like if the idea is supposed to be like he has that like, you know, bluish bluish gray charcoal look, right? Because of like the rune's power, like burning him or singeing him or something. Because he's definitely different than how he's portrayed in that one portrait in Volcano Manor, so. Alright, enough time down here. Enough diddling, darling. I don't know. I guess ancient Rao base. Yeah, so it burns, quote unquote. Now I don't know if that's just something that's like, oh, you know, the great runes, golden power, burning, you know, not too far off, right? Because we don't really see like elements with the other ones, right? Like most of the time it's more so just kind of showing what the stuff that the demigods are doing and how that's causing damage to them, like the Scarlet Rot on Radon's as it tries to burn it away, or records. Oh, sorry about that. Obviously, Mikola basically reduced his to dust. His great rune caught on fire to fight the rot in him. His will to survive affected the rune. Yeah, I wonder how much of that was Radon's like use of the rune's power versus how much of that was kind of automatic. And it would be interesting to think if we had more information on the yeah, no, it's just these guys fighting, nothing new here. It would be interesting to have more information on how the runes actually, oh god, I'm yawning a lot tonight, sorry chat. How the runes like behave, quote unquote, right? Like what if you leave them by their own? Do they like do they act to independent stimuli, or do you need to have someone else's will like direct them to do things or something? Could even be like accidental, like you know, I thought something and like, you know, the rune, you know, accidental discharge, as it were. Millennia has the rot and determination. Yeah, but I don't see how that like manifests at all in the rune. Maybe the rot part, but like, I guess I guess the idea would be it's not burning, so the burning thing would then be unique to Radon's, right? I can't think of anything with Millennia's that's like special or unique and distinguish it, right? It's not like, oh, you know, waterfowl dance or something. I don't know, it's water themed or whatever. You don't really see anything like that. Yeah, in general, I think the shattering that we get, like if you were never told anything about the quote unquote Mad Taint or anything, I don't think it would change anything that we see. Like there's nothing where it's like, oh no, we need this element to really drive home or set up the circumstances so they play out the way they do. So I really do kind of feel like it's more so a footnote. Like it's really seems to be just there as a shorthand for, like, you know, the incredible promise of power that becoming Elden Lord or God or whatever would bring. And so it serves to kind of explain, like, say, why a character like Radon, after so long, might decide that he's going to engage in the killing. It's more like strong desires become literal manifestations in the rune. I could see that to an extent, at least, but the problem is that runes at the very least have their own natures, like we see with the rune of death. So I'm not sure, like, let's say that Radon's was a rune of fire. I'm not seeing where Radon would be changing this beyond the idea that, like you were saying earlier, this like will to survive might be activating the rune, causing it to exert its influence, but I don't see the idea that it's changing the rune in any way, right? It also just kind of creates this weird thing where it's like if all the runes are identical or can be freely changed by a wielder or something like that. Like, it feels like there would be better ways to handle destined death then. You know? The rod is you getting less healing from flasks. Yeah, that's true. I guess that is one of the effects and stuff like that. But does that mean that the rune that Melania happened to pick up is one that was of a rot nature already? Yeah, it's just the bears and stuff. This actually, okay, so this is actually interesting to me is how we have this giant golden feces pile. Because I noticed the other day. Yeah, let's do it here. There's actually a lot of bears here. Yeah, obviously you have like the lilies and stuff, right? But you also have a lot of the gold tinged feces or excrement, whatever it's called, in this area. Like I'm pretty sure there's like 4 of them here. Oh, yeah. See, there's a pretty fair amount. Yeah, it might be all of them. Oh, wait. No, I missed one. Okay, 4. Yeah, so... And then up here, you got more bears. And at least 2 more of these, right? Yeah. Maybe there's more, but... My point is that that's a lot of gold... There's a lot of, like... gold shit. And yet we don't see the same thing in the Mistwood. You would think the Mistwood with all the room bears and stuff would have something similar to what we see in the DLC, but no, we don't. I don't think there's actually a lot of piles here. No, it was inflicted by the rod, I think it expressly says. Yeah, that's yeah, okay, that makes more sense to me. It seems very convenient if it just so happens that everyone got a rune conducive to themselves, right? Maybe the idea is with such a powerful rune it could not be changed. Maybe, but it's kind of weird on why that specifically would be exceptional. I think you would have to like couch it on the idea of like shadow runes and the shadow runes being special in that respect. I don't know if that would actually be true, though. That would just be me spitballing. Oh, she is so calm right now, chat. Oh, my little pupper. My little pupper. My little pupper. She's being so calm right now. She's getting braver, chat. She was getting really scared of outside with the bushes and the trees and stuff like that. I don't think she got to see a lot of those. And she's getting friendlier with dogs. It's wonderful. She's growing. Just a week and she's growing. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of the... Am I crazy? Oh, look. Okay, it is here. Is this the only one, though? Oh. Oh, no, maybe there's a lot more than I thought. This is another one. No, that's not it. Oh. That's a mushroom. Yeah, okay, there's another one. Okay, we're finding it. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. So there's at least 3 in that area. I have to like look. I guess we can explore all of Mistwood, but this one is very interesting to me because it's like, oh, like how many of these do we find specifically near bears? And should we be using it as a denominator where it's like, oh, if there's like a random feces somewhere and we don't see a bear in sight, is it like, oh no, there actually are bears here? I'm just very curious about all that. God, it's so hard to tell what is like just a shadow and what's actually like a little node. I'd like to hear your opinion on the rune etched in the foreheads of the jar shamans. I haven't really thought too deeply on that aspect of the jar shamans, right? Like, I mostly have given whatever thought was needed for the history stuff when I talk about Erdtree's beginning in America. But like, if the Hornsent have the Elden Ring, or at least pieces of it, and are using that as part of the basis of their faith, which leads them to deciding they're going to create a giant tower for God to reach, for God, quote unquote, that it makes sense to me that like it makes sense to me that they would do like runic like stuff when they're creating their jar stains and things like that, because like it's all supposed to be experimenting with gold. Glowstone. Okay, no, we've been there. So we find bodies, but no shit here. Yeah, now I'm wondering if I need to map out bears and try to compare it to where you find a lot of the golden shit and stuff, and if we can start being like, oh, there's golden shit here, that means a bear was here. Why is that significant, right? Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm going to enjoy working on Hornsent whenever I get to it. Like, I don't have really any interest in it right now because there's so much other stuff that I just, frankly, I find more interesting. Like, I find Far Missoula more interesting. I find Nox and the Eternal Cities more interesting. To some extent, I find Ancient Civ and Dynasty more interesting, but I don't know if I'm equipped to properly analyze those right now. Yeah, nothing here. They look like the rune of life and death combined to me. What would be the rune of life, though? Like, what are we saying is the rune of life here? Like, Marika's, like, Elden rune that she often uses as her symbol? Is that what we're trying to say is representative of life? I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I'm just saying, like, is that what we're on the page talking about here, or? I'm sure it'd be obvious if I had the shaman's runic thing in front of me, but it's been so long since I've actually like looked at their foreheads at any level of closeness. I've not looked at it closely in a while. Yeah, this is where we just have like blood roses and stuff, so. America's rune's what I call the rune of life. Yeah, okay, just want to make sure. America's one, obviously. Yeah, I wanted to double check because I don't know if it's like, oh no, it's actually this, like, you know, because people sometimes come up with like, you know, random theories where like, oh no, the rune of life is like this or something like that, right? So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. I mean, the idea of them doing experiments on the shamans and it combining life and death, like that doesn't sound too crazy to me, especially considering they're turning them a bunch into jar undead type things, right? Like, that does kind of just make sense to me. Now, again, I have a lot of questions about, like, the nature of, like, the Elden Ring in their society, what they actually had, how much did they have, and stuff like that. Was it something like the Hornsent had a piece of the Elden Ring, the shamans had the other piece, or something like that? And it was only by Marika working with the shamans that she get both parts and be able to combine them with her hammer to reforge a proper Elden Ring, but then she could take out the Rune of Death and stuff like that in order to produce her order? Or is it something like, oh no, the Elden Ring was already won, it was all in the hands of the Hornsent, and they're the ones who had both life and death combined. Sorry about that. The Rune of Life was a proper noun mentioned in cut content. I do not remember that. I have to go back and look at that now. Oh god, I don't care about you. Yeah, so we're not seeing as many as I thought there would. It just looks like just a bit by the room bear. And I could be missing one, but they have rancorous flesh that they shoot as homing bits at you. As in like it shoots out rancor spirits, or more so that like it has like a rancor spirit like flame effect or whatever. I don't remember what the projectile stuff looked like. All right. All right. There we go. Yeah, nothing else here. I don't think there's anything in Caelid I really want to look at anymore. Like I feel like we've covered Caelid pretty goddamn thoroughly. Like I feel like I got screenshots of basically everything. Yeah, Fort Pharos and stuff like that. Dragon Barrel West, the Iceland Merchant Shack. Harlem Great Bridge. Oh boy. It's called rancorous in item description, obviously at homes, which is odd for flesh. Oh, you're talking about like an actual item. I thought you were talking about like an attack or something. Okay. I think someone who worked on the story trailer for the DLC accidentally spilled the beans and said America took something out of a baby claw. Sadly, that's all we got. Could also be a translation issue. I mean, it could also just be something they referred to internally. It looks like a baby cloth, so that's what they call it, but it's not necessarily that in reality, right? It's just like, oh, this is just the easy way to refer to it, or it like gets the idea across because maybe Miyazaki wanted it to be like, oh, I want it to be soft as silk, like a baby cloth or something like that, right? Like there's always room to doubt when it comes to that stuff because there's always missing context. The text was removed later. Like that would make sense to me because the person, I mean, whether or not like Namco Bandai are like, hey, what are you like, you know, talking about like internal stuff or whatever. I think it just makes sense that you don't want to have that type of stuff public. Stuff that could potentially cause a firestorm for yourself or something, or you get barraged with questions because they're like, oh, you're willing to spill the beans, as you said. America is a turnip. What the hell? I am. Why? It's an attack they do too. Oh, okay, so it is doing that. Okay. I was just wondering if like there was an actual effect tied to that attack then, but I guess not. Yeah, I have not devoted enough time when it comes to the Jar Saints. I have like a vague, you know, like I have like a basic like outline of like, you know, what they are, what they do and stuff, but I have not done the deep dive into how and stuff. Because that would be a cosmology question. Though, hey, if you guys saw the FA draft I'm working on, I'm digging a lot into like deep history, and I'm getting close to touching on cosmology for some things too. It's one of those really awkward things because like if I had an Elden Ring cosmology stuff, some of that might actually be there. But I don't, at least, so I definitely have to include this stuff here. I think it's gonna be fascinating. Hey, I-Man. Oh, I misread you as I-Man. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. My brain, it's off. It's off. We're running on fumes right now. I feel like generally, like content-wise, Hornsent, like they definitely have a lot of stuff where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna really enjoy like going through and dissecting and going into the culture and the history and like all that stuff. But I really feel like it's more important that if I look at like stuff like FA, stuff like the Nox, stuff like the Fire Giants even, I think I could probably do, I don't think I could like fully solve Fire Giants, but at the very least like have something out on like some of the basic history, talk about like the animals and things like that. Are bears blessed with golden order's grace? I mean, rune bears exist. So they're getting gold in some fashion if there's some sort of rune there. Like, I struggle to imagine that rune bears are just randomly getting runes on their chest, and it doesn't have anything to do with like them eating, devouring, obtaining a tremendous amount of golden power in one form or another. Which is why I'm also suspicious about the whole dragon eyes look that they have and the dragon heart stuff that we know from the network tests and things like that. Like, I feel like there's a chance that that the idea really is supposed to be like, you know, they defeat, eat, or whatever with dragons. It also would make sense in a general sense because one, how the hell did Godric's people capture a dragon? Two, I feel like it just kind of makes sense in that you have this large bear population, but you don't have a lot of like dragons that are apparently like theoretically dragons on the frontier should be plentiful. It looks like it's just like the dragon we saw there and Agiel. And that would make a lot more sense if the idea is that like the population has been diminished or controlled because of all the bears or something. They're producing rune bears, and rune bears produce more dead dragons, which will then allow bears to become more rune bears. So something they ate. Yeah, I think the idea would be that you have bears that maybe, you know, maybe it something happens or whatever and a dragon like dies or something like that, or ends up in a helpless situation. You have bears who are eating it, and they'll eat like the heart or what, some other organ. Maybe it's just you eat enough flesh, and I think that might be giving them based on the connection to ancient dragons to gold, and therefore their descendants to gold to a lesser extent. I think you could definitely make a case for essentially the dragons, what will be the word, becoming like the basis from which rune bears are born. I don't hear different though. Again, it's not your it's a bit subtle, but like I am has like, you know, the Y and the H and stuff like that. Well, you're of course I man, you know. We got the M there, the M. It's the very important difference. So I understand though. It's something that I'm sure most, even myself, if I was just listening to it casually, I wouldn't know which exactly I might be saying. But yeah, at least in my brain, like there's a very big difference between saying I man and I am, even though unfortunately because they're so similar, I do mix you guys up, and I always apologize for that. Dragons in the west and the east, but not in the forest. Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that we know of course they're in Caelid. We know we have a few of them here in Limgrave. We obviously know they're in Liurnia. They were probably in Altus too, and they were definitely in the mountaintops. I'm pretty sure the idea is if I had to hazard a guess, I wouldn't be surprised if the idea is like all the dragons that might have still been alive on Altus migrated down to Liurnia, and then obviously you already had dragons here, so you have basically an extra big dragon population there, and then the farm colonies basically moved with them, established Caria Manor, and of course, as we know, the rest was history. The history that began Caria after that. It's not like an asparagus or eggplant, though. Ay. More. Not finding anything here anymore. We've like exhausted these areas. It's crazy, chat. It's crazy. Altus only has ancient ones now. Well, one. Yeah. Well, again, to be fair though, that's more so due to geopolitical circumstances than I guess you could argue. No, the spread of dragons definitely occurred well before any of the conflicts and stuff with Bale. So that one was at least like a natural migration. But I guess you could argue geopolitics played a role because there's like, you know, the prejudicial pressures that are being like, okay, fine, we're not going to go with you if you hate us. We'll move. We'll get out of your hair. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it'd be very weird that we have so little of a dragon population here, but if we have the idea that like a really large collection of bears and by extension room bears basically started like, you know, congregating in this forest and stuff like that, though again, why would be an interesting question. I can't think of too many other places that have this many bears in it. Like the closest I could think of is here, which is like really the Ariza stuff, like cheeky fucker. Miyazaki, you are such a cheeky fucker. Just got back from the doctors. Turns out I'm both duck-toed and dink-toed, as well as bow-legged, pin-headed, dumb, deaf, lame, blind, and lactose intolerant. Oh, so just the average American. Good to see you, Nick. Banished Knights were also on Altus Plateau at one point. Well, yeah, but like the point being is that like, you know, I don't know how like, you know, thoroughly we're supposed to believe the farm colonies succeeded in exterminating dragons, right? Like how quickly, how long, like those are a lot of question marks where I'm not entirely sure if the idea would be, oh, they had more than enough time to be able to thoroughly exterminate them. Though granted, Liurnia, obviously, Renala never gave them the chance. Limgrave and Weeping Peninsula, I don't think was going to, it was going to be long enough based on what we know with the Fringe Folk Rebellion. Obviously, same in Celia. It's funny to me to think, though, how, like, you have Grail and her dragons, like, in this endless tussle trying to stop Farmazula from, like, you know, killing them all. And then, like, as soon as Farmazula is gone, they're like, ah, oh, yes. And then, like, you know, that's probably about the time that the Banished Knights of the Farm Colonies come in and take over Celia. It's like, oh my god, now we have to fight here. But I wonder if that has any bearing on some of the battles up north, potentially. Also, you mentioned a puppy at the end of the last stream. I want every D. Oh, yeah. I fostered and just recently adopted a puppy. Another golden. Another beautiful golden. She's a mischievous sort, though, and she's already chewed up a lot of stuff, so... That's something that, like, she should stop teething soon, but it's going to take a lot of work, like, just making sure that that's not a habit. Just a bad habit, too, where she kind of gets a little bitey. Like, she doesn't snarl or anything, but she does do this thing where she'll, you know, bare her fangs and, you know, like, stretch it. And she makes just a very nasty dog face, right? And she gets a little nippy and stuff like that, but she doesn't do serious bites or anything. But, you know... Even if she's not trying to seriously bite you, she's just trying to be, like, annoyed and be, like, you know, play bite. You know, it can still, like, do something to someone. So I'm trying to get that habit out of her. You know, gotta work on other things for her, like medical health and stuff like that, especially considering I've been taking her to the doggy park and thing like that. You know, God forbid a dog has, like, kennel cough there or is asymptomatic. And then, oh, my God, then I have a dog that has, like, sick or something or, you know, that type of stuff. So, yeah, trying to... There's still a lot to do on both the dog's end and on, like, you know, just the general, like, expenses end for what she needs. Well, thank you, Nick. I do really like her. You know, she's a sweetie. She's very much a sweetie when she wants to be. She's just so exhausting because she's a puppy and she has so much energy and, like, holy hell, my neck is killing me. Like, girl... Please stop pulling. That's another thing, is trying to teach her not to pull when we're on the leash. That's gonna... And this is the thing with, like, golden retriever puppies, right? They just have so much energy. They're just so much, and there's just so much for them to, like, absorb and take in, and they're the curious and adventurous sort. Like, believe me, I take her to the park. She's scared of dogs. She's scared of dogs. She doesn't want to be approached by them or anything like that, especially around her butt. But goodness me, does she keep on, you know, like, going... She keeps trucking on through to try to, you know, approach them and sniff them and do all these things. And like a champion, she's been getting braver and stuff. So next time I take her, I'm hoping that we'll see her get even more, because like last time I think it helped also because there was like there was a nice sheepdog during my last visit. No, was it that last visit or the one before? I don't remember. Anyway, during that visit, and like, you know, she got to, you know, it was a dog that likes being chased, so kind of let her you know, do all the running after it, and it was like so nice to see her be able to, like, you know, get the bravery. And now she's like so much better with a lot of dogs. She's actually trying to run and play. And again, it's the exposure thing. That's the important thing, is making sure that this dog gets plenty of experiences so she gets used to it, so she's not scared of, you know, the most random crap anymore. I don't think you've sacrificed enough things to your child yet. Yes, give her all the chewable items. And socks, I don't need socks. Shoes? What shoes? You're never... Just go on walks barefoot, forehead. Blankets? Why do you need blankets? Like, you'll survive through the night. There's a cold coming through? I don't know what you're talking about. It's not cold right now in the States. Yeah, socializing is just something where it's like, listen, you just got to do it more and more, and over time they'll learn it. Like I told you guys before, my good old Rusty, he was never socialized with dogs. He was a sweetie. I love him to death, but I could not take him anywhere because, you know, whatever happened to him before he came to me and ended up in my home, like, that was just like in him, and I was never going to leave him, and there was just no way that we were going to take that away. And it was just like, you know, you had to deal with it, right? So I never put him in a situation where he could end up being so overwhelmed, surrounded by dogs or something like that, and he could, you know, God forbid, actually, like, you know, bites someone or some animal or something. So I was very happy with how you know, Rusty was able to get, you know, the best life he could have, you know, considering his circumstances. And I want to do the same now with this girly, but you know, this is the first time I had a golden this young, so it's a lot of work, you know. It's just a lot of work dealing with a puppy, like an actual, like, you know, Dakota and Rusty were the last two I had, and both of them, they were a little bit on the older side, admittedly. Like they were like, you know, they weren't like, you know, they were about, like, I think Rusty was like 1 year and 8 months, and Dakota was closer to 3, I'm pretty sure. Like, she was like 2 and a few, I think. Either way, the point was that, you know, they were a little bit like at the tail end of their puppy years, so they already kind of mellowed out a bit, and they were very close to just hitting that switch where it's like, okay, now like the golden is like energetic and stuff, but they're like neurotic, like constantly. So like, it's very weird for me having to deal with this, and I have to teach her everything. Like, thank God she was already house trained. It's just my ignorance. What's on the docket for the next 4 articles? I've been focusing on Bloodborne stuff, but it's been slow going and things because like a lot of things are happening, and so I've been like taking the time, like kind of like casually doing like Elden Ring stuff, like Far Missoula. I recently put out a thing, and I've already got like 18 pages on like Far Missoula content, and we're not even done with we haven't gotten to the Bale stuff. So like, there's a lot there to work on. But yeah, like, generally it's gonna be, I think the first thing I want to get done maybe tomorrow and have that posted is going to be Blood Saints. And then Loran I want to have done next month. And once Loran's done, I'm hoping that I'll feel confident enough with like the Elden Ring stuff that I've been working on the side that we'll be able to post a lot of that stuff soon. Again, the problem is just like, you know, I've been so laser focused on Godfrey's era that I'm really trying to now catch myself up on like the stuff both before and after those periods. And it's just kind of a lot of data to sift through and try to at least have like a general idea on everything, so I can, you know, be like, okay, this is relevant, this is not relevant, and, you know, just kind of, you know, separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were. And that just takes time and effort, obviously. So it's gonna be like a little slow going, I think, on the posts and stuff. But then, you know, I posted a lot in December, right? Like I had a lot of different articles. Like I was pumping out bangers after banger for that one. I think like the smallest one was the man bats or whatever. But like I had some pretty meaty articles to share over the course of December. So I have no problem with slowing things down a little. I love Golden's the de facto dog breed for a reason. Yeah, they are truly, I think, they're, I think, what people think of when they think dog. You know, like they capture like all the lovable things about dogs in one silly animal. And boy, is she silly. Just has no sense of boundaries. I'm on the bed, she wants to be on the bed. I'm on the couch, she wants to be on the couch. I'm on the bench, she wants to be on the bench. I'm trying to teach her the boundaries and stuff like that. I feel like it's going to be a losing battle. Like I think she's already learned that, you know, she could just go on these things and there's nothing damn well I can do about it. I can tell her to get off and she'll do it. She'll like turn around and just try to get back on again.
Oi. You there.
Yeah, nothing crazy here. Anything else that I'm missing that I want to mention? I am incredibly hopeful that with the Elden Ring stuff, that like now that I've got God Hunts and I'm working on Farm Missoula and stuff like that, I'm hoping that I will have lots of content where I will effectively, what's the word? I'm hoping that I'll have lots of content where I will be able to effectively, you know, talk about Elden Ring on a more, you know, systems basis, and not like in a systematic like actually like the systems of like the magic, the cosmology, like all these things. I'm hoping that that's going to start soon, and I'll be able to actually begin like kind of having a true full understanding of this world, how it works, and as a result be able to talk about things just like in just a more, you know, not really meaningful as it were, but just more knowledgeable sense, where like I know my shit now. I can actually, you know, talk about some of this magic stuff or whatever. I can tell you I know exactly what's happening, why it's happening, how it's happening, like what are the rules and principles, what's the process for how we get there. Right now I'm still in that stage where I'm kind of just like, I accept that this is in fact a truth, this happened, this is the, you know, this is a factoid or whatever, and I'm kind of just rolling with it with some like basic, you know, basic framework understanding of how to apply those same principles, but nothing like deeper on like the principles themselves. Oh, absolutely, your output's been remarkable. I was just curious. Yeah, it's just, I'm very happy. I think I'm gonna do a thing on the Twitters on like just kind of showcasing the most popular posts from last year in general, and then my favorite posts that I did last year. God Hunts is definitely gonna be on there. I am so impressed with that one. Like, what a way to end the year with that. I was very happy with like getting that one out there. But like in general, I think that like I've been like, you know, I've been making good progress. Like I'm very happy with like where we're at with DS2 and stuff, and you guys have been like giving me more feedback and things. So I really would like to, you know, I get it all the time. I'm always being asked about both, you know, through emails and through chats or through messages on the Twitter, not using the new name. All of that has been like really like, you know, encouraging. Like I definitely, it makes me be like, yeah, I wanna kind of go for making an AA2. Like I told you guys before, though, I don't know if you were here, Nick, so maybe you want to chime in on this. I don't know, like, if we were to hypothetically have an AA2, there's be a question of, well, do we call it just Abyssal Archive, the mythology of Dark Souls 2? Or do we like try to change it up and like what we did with Demonic Archive or something or what I would ideally want my Bloodborne book to be called Cosmic Archive and my Elden Ring book, you know, theoretically, that thing that will exist totally in like maybe a decade, but like Elden Archive. But like if we were to do a Dark Souls 2, do I change Abyssal Archive and make it a different adjective? I don't know. I feel like Abyssal is like, it's so perfect for the entire series. I can't think of another term that would fit for specifically Dark Souls 2 that would be more appropriate, right? I just can't think of it. So I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Maybe you guys will think of something better than I, but like, I definitely think that we have to stick with Abyssal Archive. I also think it will be better if, like, you know, for people who want to collect all the, like, theoretically, an Abyssal Archive 3 comes out, right? I think it just would be better if it's all under the same, you know, title thing. So it's like, look, I have all the Abyssal Archive things, you know? Woo! We're gonna die. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I'm also just, you know, like I said, there's an update I want to do to Eclipse in Dark Souls 3, but also it just feels good to know that Dark Souls 3 is also basically done, right? Really, the only major thing to do is patches. So I'm just so... I have to go check up on Smotown, see if he's actually going to do his Dark Souls 3 stuff this year, because he mentioned that at some point, and I wonder if he's still going to be interested in doing that. But the point I want to make is Volume 2. We already have 2 volumes for Abyssal Archive for the first one. If we call it Volume 2, that might be confusing. Volumes 3, 4, and 5, if it ends up being 3. I actually am curious how many... I am curious how we would end up rendering that, because I want to imagine that AA2 will be larger than AA1. I definitely feel like the content is more. I could be wrong. But I feel like in terms of like density and stuff, well, Dark Souls 2 is certainly vacuous. There's still a lot of stuff. I think that counts for something. Dark Souls 3, I 100% expect will be longer than AA1. I just don't know if it'll be longer or you know, or shorter than AA2. I don't see anything wrong with keeping the original name, especially considering that dum-dums might not recognize it. It's the same family if the prefix is changed. Yeah, that's true and stuff like that. I definitely think that's a good case. Yeah, I was just feeling like there was no need to change it. I like Abyssal Archive and stuff like that, but it's something to consider, being like, yeah. It's also just a matter of snappiness. Like, again, you got to think of, like, Abyssal Archive. Like, it just works. Like, again, I have reservations about the title, but Demonic Archive is definitely something where, yeah, like, there's a certain, like, catchiness and, you know, to it. So, like, I feel like 3 syllables, maybe 8 letters. Like, what else would you have for Abyssal? You know?
Why won't anyone look me in the eye?
Guess 6 letters could work too. If you're able to keep it, you're able to really keep it short enough. I'm surprised you didn't do Dark Souls 3 before 2 as a meme. Listen, as tempting as that is, Xavier, I don't think it's fair to people that I reference back to Dark Souls 2 in a Dark Souls 3 book when I don't actually have a Dark Souls 2 book out, right? Like, 1 doesn't have anything before it, so you could just kind of pump that, and I can allude to things in the future or whatever for those that might want to. Let's say you've never played Dark Souls 2 or 3, theoretically. You might want to play those games in the future, right? It's more sort of a sneak peek at the type of content that you can find in those games. But if I work on a Dark Souls 3 or whatever, and I'm referencing back Dark Souls 1, it's like, yeah, you can read my book on Dark Souls 1, but you don't get to read on 2. It would just be weird. And I don't know. I think it just would be really odd to come out with 3 before 2. I think that'd be odd for the audience. I think it'd be confusing. I think it would make people be wondering, why the hell are you doing it? Oh, are you not even considering 2 or whatever? But 2 has this awesome thing. Just look at my theory on how it all actually explains 1 and 3 or something. Right? Like, I think it's just better, I think, as is. Very phonetically pleasant and evocative. Yeah, I agree with you. I just think Abyssal Archive is something where I want that to remain the identity for the series of books for this. And I think changing the subtitle to The Mythology of Dark Souls 2 is fine. If we wanted to, we can even just make it an AA2 to really sell it home. Like, I don't know, I'd have to talk with the publisher about that type of stuff, how we'd want to market it and things like that. But like in general, I'm very hopeful. Very much hopeful. Anyway, chat, I think this is where we end it. Again, always cool to have questions, answers, and, you know, get, like, you know, you guys picking my brain while I also pick your brains on what exactly you guys are interested in and stuff. I appreciate you. The big hope, I think, for me is that, you know, the dog will not, you know, the pupper will not be taking too much of my time. I'm hoping that, I'll be able to, you know, kind of get myself into a schedule or whatever, so that way I can, keep things going at a similar pace. But we'll see. Like, at some point I have to, like, again, I'm sorry that I've had to skip so many stream days lately, but like at some point, like, you know, I have to prioritize her, especially during this very critical time. So it's like, it's gonna take a lot out of me. That's just the reality. I'm hoping that in the meantime, I'll be able to use that, you know, especially the exercise, to be able to think about, you know, different, you know, maybe theories and stuff, maybe be able to, you know, get my noggin going a little bit better if I'm, you know, actually running a bit more, since now I can do that. So I think just like, you know, pulling it all together, I'm hopeful that, you know, this stuff is going to, you know, there's a lot of changes happening in my life, but there are going to be things where things will be different, but I think I'm maybe even better than before, you know? I'm very hopeful that the Dark Souls 2 stuff, you know, like you guys, like everything you've supplied me and everything, I hope like we keep that up and we do make it, because I would really love to see a hypothetical Abyssal Archive 2 to be coming out, which would totally have you know, all these wonderful like illustrations and things that we've already done, but hey, you never know, might even come with a new map, you know, hypothetically, of course. There'd be a lot of cool stuff if that were to actually happen. And again, you guys helping me polish the manuscript by, you know, essentially doing some of the QA and stuff, I really appreciate that. Every time I find a new typo or something that's getting fixed, or like a new piece of data where it's like, oh, you should include or add that or something like that, like it's like, oh yeah, I probably should. And then yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, like overall, overall, again, Pupper, big change in my life and stuff like that, so I apologies to guys, like I'm not streaming as consistently lately, but you know, I'm happy. I love her a lot. Absolutely gonna try to make things work with her, and like, you know, still try to let you guys get a decent flow of content from me on the site. I am I have also been taking consideration, because I know when you guys it's been a while since I mentioned this, but I know you guys were interested in possibly seeing me publish some fiction stuff under Loki. You know, I've been really considering how I wanted to like separate or segregate or do so with my authorial work, and yeah, I might actually you know, do that in the future. I don't think anything like anytime soon or whatever, but like I might start doing polls, engaging your guys' interest in like topics or story premises or things like that, and maybe then you guys can like kind of like, you know, kind of have a vote or give some feedback on which stuff you'd be like really interested in seeing from me or something. And then like, you know, I can, you know, maybe I should be like, okay, maybe this will be the story I will publish under like Loki or whatever. But you know, I'm someone who always has like, you know, creative ideas on how I want to approach it, so like I'd have to think about that more. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I'd want to talk about and stuff like that. I think you know, my brain is exhausted. I need to sleep. This dog is running me ragged, that's for sure. Hopefully I don't break down. Oh no. But until then, guys, love y'all. Later.